If you've ever sat in your seat and wondered what pilots are doing in the cockpit during the flight, this video will give you some behind the scenes answers that travelers have asked for this year. We'll talk about potholes in the sky and why turbulence is a normal part of flight safety, but there are certain questions almost every passenger thinks but rarely gets to ask. Today, my husband, an airline pilot, is going to open the door of the cockpit and give you 15 of the most asked questions. These are going to be 15 fast-paced questions for a pilot, including turbulence, explained directly from the person flying in the captain's seat. Number one question for you is, why do air pockets happen and are they dangerous?
Air pockets can be dangerous if you're not wearing your seatbelt, but they normally happen because the earth is not perfectly a sphere of flat ground. There's mountains, there's all kinds of different topography. And as air passes over those, some of that air gets lifted up because, for instance, like in the Rocky Mountains, it bumps up against the mountain, goes up, and that creates pressure differences between different masses of air. And so when those differences collide together, you have different pressure, different winds, all the kind of stuff is different. Then occasionally as you fly through it, you're going to hit a air pocket or some type of turbulence. Some of our software will tell us there's turbulence ahead based on some things that the equipment sees, but we normally do it by word of mouth, by previous airplanes that have gone through there.
Is it dangerous?
Not usually, no. It depends on how severe the air pocket is. But as long as you're wearing your seatbelt, the airplanes are engineered or over-engineered to withstand those kinds of air pockets.
Why does it feel like sometimes the airplane suddenly drops?
Because airplanes stay aloft because of the airflow over the wings. And so if there's a change in that airflow, you're going to get less lift and you may drop a little bit.
I have flown with a nervous flyer once and she almost had an anxiety attack mid-flight. I made a whole video, I'll make it pop up there with lots of tips and tricks that you can do. But what advice do you have for people who are very anxious when they are in an airplane?
If you're anxious about turbulence, the first thing I would do is when you book your flight, try to sit as close to the front of the airplane or at least forward of the wing as possible. That's not any safer than the back. It's just when you get into bumps, they tend to be amplified more in the back of the airplane than the front of the airplane. And then please, if you're a nervous flyer, when you step in the airplane, ask the flight attendants if you can talk to the pilots. Come in there and we'll gladly show you our flight plan. We'll show you any areas of forecast turbulence that we know about, and we'll tell you, the first hour is going to be smooth. It may be bumpy in the next hour and a half. We'll do all our best to make you as comfortable as possible.
The next question is, what is your favorite airport to land in?
I like ones with views or ones that are easy to get in and out of. Like Denver is lots of square miles. There's lots of long runways. It's not terribly challenging to get in and out of Denver. But ones with views like Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, they're all very pretty to fly into.
Why are some runways in airports shorter than other runways?
So most of the airports that America flies in and out of commercially were built 50, 60, 80 years ago when aviation was still just a very small thing and they didn't need a lot of runway length. And then towns built around it and stuff like that. And so we can't just mold down a neighborhood of houses to make a runway longer. So we just deal with the runway that we're given in that particular airport. That prohibits some certain types of airplanes from going into certain airports based on there's just not enough runway length to either take off or stop.
One question from a viewer was, what do pilots do in the cockpit for the whole flight?
Our heaviest workload is from the time we push back to the time we get to cruise altitude, and then we begin our descent back to the gate on the other end of the flight. But those periods where our workload is not high, we're obviously in constant communication with air traffic control. Our airline, if we're doing there's an issue going on, and we're just monitoring the systems on the airplane.
What systems in the airplane?
How's our fuel doing? Do we have enough gas that we're supposed to have at this point in the flight? What's the temperature in the cabin like?
So you really do monitor the temperature in the cabin, because sometimes it's freezing cold and sometimes it's burning up hot.
Yes, we do.
Another question from a viewer was, what is the best suitcase?
That's going to vary by personal taste, but in this business, you need a suitcase that is durable, that it gets dragged all over the country, thrown in the back of lots of hotel vans. So ones that's designed like a tank. So I would recommend for at least this job, metal frame suitcase. They're going to be heavier, but they'll last you much longer. Luggage Works is the one that I use, but they're not cheap.
Another question is, why do captains seem to mumble?
So I can tell you that airplane manufacturers spend a lot of money on the technology in the front, making the airplane burn as little fuel as possible with the most efficient wing and the most efficient engines. I don't think they spend a lot of time on the most expensive sound system on the airplane. So a lot of it is just the noise you hear around the airplane is getting picked up into the passenger address system. We don't get taught to mumble. Some people do, some people don't, but it is just not the best audio system that you've ever used. And that's just something that the airplane manufacturers didn't spend a lot of time and money on.
Another passenger asked, what do pilots pack? He is going to show you some things in his backpack that he's allowed to show you. If I have the link, I will make it pop up in the bottom left corner while he's talking about it. It's a Samsonite
Mhm.
backpack, right?
Mhm.
His old backpack weighed 8 pounds empty. That's heavier than my suitcase.
I like a backpack with multiple pockets. So this one, I just carry things like sunglasses, eyeglasses, and then it's got a pouch for my passport that's easy to get to. And then I carry my all my cords for charging items, iPads, iPhones, computers, laptops, and I carry my Anchor power bank that also monitors for heat for overheating if I need to quickly charge my cell phone. And then I also carry with me my company's iPad back here, and then my own laptop to do stuff on the road with.
He is very organized, and that's great for a pilot. All right, what about gifts from passengers for you or the flight attendants? Do you have an opinion?
Definitely not required at all. Occasionally, they'll give us a bag of chocolate, Ghirardelli chocolate, or I've even had at Christmas time, passengers give us gift cards to Starbucks. Very nice gesture, but obviously not required at all.
I'm also going to list a video up here in the upper right corner that you can watch now or later from the flight attendant's perspective. And her video is super interesting, but she also mentions gifts. A frequently asked question is the earth flat?
The Earth is not flat. I, I've never been high enough in space to see it, but there's enough evidence out there to tell you that the Earth is not flat. And if it were flat, there's been an awful lot of filming and fake stuff that has been in place for the last 90 years to prove that.
Another viewer wants to know if you like to fly during the day more than the night or vice versa.
I personally like flying during the day because there's more to see and there's more visual cues that my eyes get when I'm bringing an airplane back to the ground that you don't get at night. But I'll fly at both, but I prefer the day.
When we buy tickets or fly standby on an airline, he loves to sit in the window seat always so that he can look out the window when the wings are doing whatever they do. What are those wing flaps there for?
So the goal when we land is to get rid of any lift the wing has left. We want it on the ground, staying on the ground. So when we touch down, there's systems on the airplane that detect we're on the ground and deploy panels on top of the wing that they call spoilers. And the whole reason of a spoiler is to spoil all the lift on the wing. In others, we don't want the wing flying anymore. So we do everything we can to disrupt the airflow over the top of the wing, and then that way the airplane can sit on its wheels and we now are back on the ground.
What about the point of the wing where it flips up? Why is that in that shape?
So when air moves over the top of the wing and the bottom wing that generates lift, that's all great till it gets to the very edge of the wing. And when it gets to the edge of the wing, it much is like what happens in the water with a boat propeller. It's just a big swirl where the air masses come together, and that just creates additional drag. So they've added these winglets or wing fences on the end of the wing to help smooth out the airflow at the end of the wing, which improves fuel efficiency so the plane can fly further and more efficiently.
We have many moms of pilots on here, and several of the questions are always, how long will it take them to get an airline job once they are done with flight school?
So getting a job in the airline business is it fluctuates with the demand, how well are airlines doing, and then if they are, they tend to hire the most experienced people they can find first. So you have to start somewhere. So I would recommend getting a job with a regional airline, and that gives you some good time flying with another pilot, which we call crew time. and that makes you marketable for the bigger airlines. And then as you progress through the system, you'll move from the right seat, which is the first officer seat, to the left seat, which is the captain seat at that regional, and then continue to build captain time, and then eventually keep applying at the bigger airlines. And then eventually you will meet their, it's not a requirement, it's just this is the average person they're pulling for an interview based on their experience.
If this video has given you more questions that you want to ask a pilot, leave them in the comments below because we're always keeping a running list. I'll also have my list of newest travel tip videos right there for you. You can tap on it and it'll open up the whole list of videos. Thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.